Hi, I'm Michelle.
I'm Patrick.
We're the Galinskis, and we've got this.
Hey Michelle, what are we doing today?
Today we're doing another furniture project.
Nice. What is it?
So this is our jelly cupboard,
Yeah.
which we got in 1987,
Nice.
the year we got married.
How many years ago was that?
It'll be 35 years.
Just testing your math.
Yes. So it'll be-
Excellent.
We've had this for almost 35 years.
Excellent.
And we bought it because we actually lived in a tiny house back in the day.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, and we had no storage. So we were like, we needed some storage. We had seen this when we were on our honeymoon on Cape Cod. It was at an unfinished furniture place called the Mill Store.
Which still exists today.
Yeah, not as many, but there's still at
There's
least
still some
one,
around,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah. And we wanted to make sure we had a spot for it. We went back home, and then in the fall of that year, we made a one-day trip out to Cape Cod specifically to pick this thing up, and it was $69.
Man, those were the days.
I know. So we've always basically used it to store like spices and stuff like that. Even though it's called a jelly cupboard, we really have our spices in it.
I only know about 3 of them that are in here,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
And as you can see, it's very disorganized because I actually use it a lot, and I don't always put things in alphabetical order, which is how I really do like to keep them. But sometimes I just throw them in because I'm in a rush.
Well, that's way more organized than I would be.
It's been through. We're on our 7th house, our 7th home, and this has been in every one of our homes. It's been put in storage between moves. It's been moved all these times, and so it does have battle scars.
Yes.
These things have happened in the move. This from rubbing against something in the
Some
moving
chunks
van.
here, too.
Yep, some more indentations here and some chunks off the edge.
Now back then, that would have been, we would have been upset. Today it's called character.
Yeah. So as you can see, the color, the finish of it is really not in keeping with the times and in our current decor. So we've decided, I've decided that it might be a good idea to try to refinish it in a similar vein as what we just did this farmhouse table.
Right.
So they both have seen better days. This came out great.
Yes, we love this table. We use it almost every day now, much more than we ever used to use it.
Yeah, and we had done this to kind of go with that table that we built.
Right.
And
Right.
so so I thought, I was sitting there one day and I said, maybe we should do the jelly cupboard in the same style.
Right.
And so that's this weekend's project.
Well, we're going to try to do this in
One day.
one day. That's minimal amount of prep. And I say that because in my restoration world, I'm always taking off multiple layers of paint, and it's just a mess to try to get all that off. This just has about 1 to 2 coats of stain. There isn't even any poly or anything. It just got soaked right into the brand new pine. We probably did this a week after we brought it home, I'm guessing. So we're going to try to sand the top down to the pine to get it to like the top of the table. And then this will probably sand a little bit less to leave some of the color on, so it'll add to Michelle's distressing, which she's very good at. And then we're going to sand these panels, and I'm going to show you a technique how to sand into those corners. Sand the panels down to the wood just like we're going to do the top. And we'll pull the lever off and the knob and the hinges. It really isn't a big problem. Probably take just as much time to unpack all of that.
Oh my God.
I'm kind of busy right now. Could you handle that, Michelle?
Of course.
So now it's time for the fun part, which is the prepping and sanding. So I have a special tool here. It's not uncommon, but it might be uncommon for you guys at home. It's a vibrating saw, and I've had this for 10 plus years. Usually I use it with a saw blade to cut stuff, and it's great. But today we're going to use it to get in these square corners. How hard is it? And I've tried thousands of times to hand sand in a square corner. This unit right here, we can get right in there and keep moving along. Now, we don't need to use too coarse of paper. This is actually kind of coarse for what we're doing, but it's going to be an experiment. This is 120, and then I have 220 afterwards. So that's the door part of things. And then over here, Michelle is going to use the orbital sander with some 220 because, again, this doesn't have much on it. She's just going to lightly sand this to take off the finish and bring some of the pine back. But the top, we're going to try to sand the whole thing to get that pine color, so when we clear coat it, it'll look a lot like our table. So right now, it's time to get to sanding. So Michelle just orbital sanded with a combination of 150 and 220, and already it looks 100 times better. It has, like, already by sanding, it has a little bit of a distressed look, which is really nice, and you can really see the knots pop. We are going to sand it a little bit more. We're going to hit the corners by hand because you don't want to use a sander on the corner because you'll make it a chamfer, not a corner. So that's the body. Let's take a look at the door over here, what I've done. I tell you, this $39 Harbor Freight sander I bought 10 years ago is fantastic. Just with the tool alone, I was able to sand into these square corners and get just about all that stain off. And now we're going to hit this with the orbital sander. We are well on our way with just about 20 minutes of time invested. Time to keep going. So right now Michelle's applying the gray stain first, and then she's going to highlight with the white afterwards. And after she's done with the gray and it dries, which it dries extremely fast.
Yeah, it's already dry.
It's already dry, which is not bad. I'm going to take some 220 grit sandpaper and sand it to remove some of the gray and let that wood grain show through like we did on our table, which was a huge difference. We've masked off the center panels because we're not going to stain those. We're just going to clear those. So far, looking real nice. So I'm just going to take some 220 and lightly sand off some of the gray that's been applied to reveal some of the wood underneath, which already looks really nice. Might have to go just a touch more. We'll see how it goes. Then the white stain over that.
All right. So we've applied all the gray stain to all the surfaces that we want to have gray on, and Patrick is now sanding off some of the gray. So he's already sanded all of these surfaces. So even when you think you're all ready, you take the tack rag and look at all the dust that's still on there. So
Still on.
that's why you use the tack rag. Coat number 5. Still on the cabinet. So here's the finished jelly cupboard, or spice cupboard.
Spice cupboard in our instance, and that looks fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how it came out.
I mean, yeah, you can see the sheen on the top, which is nice, and this is really smooth. I sanded this with 600 grit paper in between. I think I have about 6 or 7 coats on this thing, and it was worth doing. So, yeah. Show us what's inside, Michelle.
Oh God!
Please.
Really?
The people need to see this.
Spices.
Now, they're not just spices; they're organized spices. Starting with A, is that correct?
They're mostly alphabetical on the top shelf, and then on the bottom shelf are things that I use the most often so that I don't have to dig around too much.
Maybe I could have like Patrick's Corner right there.
Yeah,
that looks
everything
great.
Fits. And we even did the knob and the latch.
Yep.
And I'm glad that we decided to leave the top and the inserts on the door natural, and then do the gray and whitewash on the rest.
Now these are basically just, I don't want to use the word cheap, but this is inexpensive plywood. But once it was sanded with that vibrating tool, I didn't even sand any of this by hand. This was all the tool got right in those corners quite nicely and made quick work of it, really. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to take a quick peek at our table over here.
Yeah, I think it's very complimentary.
So on the table, we have the natural top, which looks very similar to the spice cabinet. And the base legs of this top look again like the sides of the spice cabinet. So I think we did a good job with this, getting all the colors to kind of correlate with the other items in our home.
Yeah, I think they don't necessarily match specifically, but they're very complementary.
That is for sure. Well, that project we can check off the list as being done.
I think it came out really well. I like it. Looks good. And it looks like a new piece of furniture.
Right.
Looks like almost a completely different piece of furniture.
Right. So we're talking about a couple other pieces of furniture. This one right behind us, we're thinking about
Maybe doing something with
doing
it.
something with it. We're not sure. Now, this is an antique. So we have to kind of think about what the best approach is to restore a real antique. You know, that piece is 35 years old that we just tackled, so that was current. But I think we could do something with that.
We have 2 dressers and 2 nightstands.
Now that was cherry.
It was cherry, and then when we moved into this house, because the cherry was dark,
Yeah, too dark.
we decided that we wanted to go lighter,
Right.
and we just painted it white.
Right, satin
And
white.
it's very,
Black.
yeah, it's very boring. It's
So with the nightstand, because it's white painted over the cherry, I think that would look pretty cool if we sanded some of the white off,
yeah,
applied some of the stain like we just did with these pieces here,
yep.
and clear over that. You know, we can do it as an experiment. If it fails, I can just spray the whole thing white again to match everything else, really. But I think that might be a good thing to try next. So,
I'm Michelle. I'm Michelle.
I'm Patrick.
We're the
Galinsky's,
Galinsky's, and we've got this.
Thanks for watching.